Well, if there's one thing our Prime Minister is good at, it is virtue signaling. He has been positioning himself as a staunch feminist and a moral crusader with the highest of standards, except for when it comes to holding himself by those standards, but that's besides the point. So it wasn't really that surprising when he decided to weigh in on the George Floyd protests. But there's just one small problem with him coming out and telling the black community and all Canadians that we as a country need to do better. And no, I don't mean because he was the one caught wearing blackface. I mean because he's the Prime Minister of the country. And the same goes for Minister Ahmed Hussein. He told CTV's Power Play that he gets his back up when he sees a police cruiser behind him, and sometimes that when he's in a store, he gets followed, and this is systemic racism. This is a serious problem. And I'm not saying these things don't happen to him. I'm sure they do happen, and I'm sure that black Canadians, just like him, do have a different experience than myself. I'm not a black Canadian. I can't speak to their experience. But the issue here is not whether or not there is a racism problem in Canada. Of course, racism exists in this country. Of course, that's an issue, and that's something that we need to deal with. The issue is that these men, all virtue signaling by the Prime Minister aside, are speaking for a moral cause, but they're both in a position of power. One is the Prime Minister, and one is a federal cabinet minister. If anyone in this country has the power to affect change on this issue, it's going to be them. Now, there's a lot of things they could do. They could call a royal commission. They could call a national inquiry. They could ask Statistics Canada to put together some stats and reports so that we could try and pinpoint where exactly this institutional or systemic racism is occurring. They could ask the RCMP to make some changes. They could speak to some of the premiers. They could do a lot of things more than just taking photo ops, as my colleague Candice Malcolm tweeted about the photo op that the Prime Minister took getting on a knee, which, as she aptly pointed out, is not even clear what is the Canadian context. What does that mean when you do that here in this country? But there's a lot of things that they could do instead of taking photo ops or going on the news to complain about this issue. Meanwhile, you have something like this. This is the missing and murdered Indigenous women, of which there were, according to the news source, 231 recommendations made by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women report, and all of the other government panels and things put together, National Inquiry and everything put together, 231 different recommendations that use the words urgent, immediately, these kind of things. And yet, instead of speaking about this, instead of speaking about something of which there is an action plan, and it's not that he shouldn't speak about the other things. Don't get me wrong. It's not that he should not speak about anti-black racism or anti-Semitism or Islamophobia or any of the other hate issues and discrimination issues that affect us here in Canada. But where is he on this issue when this actually has an action plan? The national plan that was supposed to be in place in June is now on hold, seemingly because of the coronavirus. Just like Parliament is on hold now, apparently we can't act on the missing and murdered Indigenous women because of the coronavirus, even though this was one of the planks, one of the things that the Prime Minister said he was going to tackle. It was a big deal for him during both of his election campaigns. So, racism is a serious issue in this country. It's something that we need to deal with, something we shouldn't shy away from having that conversation. The difference is that whereas I can simply have that conversation with you, you can have that conversation with your friends, you can try and raise awareness of the issue, they can do more. They can actually do something about it, and they aren't. For True North, I'm Sam Eskenasi. Thank you for watching.